Hello everyone and welcome to another bombastic episode of Books and Banter, your Medina Library's video blog as to what the experts are reading. I am your resident expert, Eric Lucius, coming to you from the stacks. And it's actually not what the experts are reading, it's what I'm reading, let's be honest. Today it is at least. So, over the stack, you can see I got all kinds of things on my list, or on my shelf recently. So I'm going to go through a couple of them with you. Some that I've actually gotten to read all the way through, and a couple that I'm just interested in. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I kind of briefly talked about this 2 episodes ago, the dinner. Herman, still not sure if it's coach or coach, however, loved it. Absolutely wonderful. This is one of those books that truly lives up to its hype. And we do have it on our Lucky Break shelf, so there's a ton of copies available. The people are just despicable. It's 4 characters, just to rehash. It's a couple, 2 couples, Paul and Serge are brothers, and together with their wives, they're meeting at a restaurant to discuss an issue. I don't want to give away the plot. Serge is a politician that's in line to take over the prime ministership of the Netherlands. That's where it's set, and it's actually this is the English translation, international bestseller. So they get together to figure out, how the best way to maneuver and make sure that it doesn't ruin his political career. And the 4 people, they're just despicable. I don't even know how else to explain it to them. Explain them. There's not really any good redeeming qualities about them. And what's wonderful, I think what he did with how he wrote it is, at first you're kind of sympathetic to one character, and the other one's like a boo, big evil guy, and he flips it. He almost, at times you start wondering, okay, is this really the bad guy or not? I'm not really going to give anything away, but I'm just going to tell you they're all bad guys. But it's very, very interesting. If you like books about characters, the plot is kind of secondary. It's kind of a cool setting that takes place over this meal they have. A lot of flashbacks, a lot of backstory that comes into play to explain the characters and explain how they got to where they are. But if you like books that are about characters and maybe people that are kind of seedy, this is a wonderful book for you. I didn't even notice until I was about halfway through. Gillian Flynn, author of Gone Girl, has a little blurb. She wrote a little praise for this book, and I'm seeing a lot of the big reviews, New York Times and whatnot, and other people saying that this could be a read-alike. I'm not so sure read-alike for author of or for Gone Girl. I'm not so sure if I'd go that far, but again, Gone Girl has those characters that they're just kind of make you cringe a little bit. I see where they're going with that. Great book. Go ahead and get this. While I'm speaking of Gone Girl, I know lots of folks are looking for read-alikes. We have this wonderful poster from Random House they brought to us. All kinds of read-alikes here. If you're looking for read-alikes, email me. Go to Mary's service, The Great Reads for You, off of our website. Let us know. We can get you this list, or just stop by the library. I have this floating around. So, great book. Lives up to the hype. I would pair this with an ice wine. I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe just because I want to talk about ice wine right now. But I guess where I'm going at, ice wine, great stuff made in Canada. Inniskillen's the big name in it. Also a little bit closer in Front Winery up in Geneva. They make a Cab Franc ice wine. Very good stuff. I guess the comparison I would make is ice wine, you usually have a little bit. You're not going to have more than one glass because it's so sweet and super expensive. That's kind of how I felt with a book like this. Like, I really liked it, but I can only read so many books about these characters that just are, and that's the same thing with Ice Wine. You learn a little bit. I'm going to read this book, then I went to some other fun stuff to bring up my spirits. But anyway, wonderful book. Okay, next up, Angelopolis. Danielle Trussoni. This is her follow-up to Angelology, which came about 2 years ago. New York Times bestseller. This guy had all the publicity, all the hype too. I just wasn't feeling it. When I read Angelology, my issue with that was I felt like I couldn't follow the plot. And I thought maybe it was because I read it in too many short segments. So I read this book all in about 2, 3, 4 sittings. I felt the same way. There's just too much going on. The one thing that really drives me nuts, there's too many coincidences. There's too many, the solution just kind of falls in their laps. And I don't know how she got away with it with some of the critics that really praise this book. I just felt there's too many times where they need to meet a certain person and 2 sentences later, oh, he shows up. Or they need to find out a certain secret that's been kept for, decades and decades, and 2 pages later they learn it. It's just too much of that for my taste. Good book. If you're a fan of Dan Brown, Steve Barry, any of those types of folks, you're going to like this book. It has all that good stuff talks about Russian imperial past. You got Rasputin and the Romanovs in there, which, strangely enough, I just read that book a couple episodes ago, the Marcello Romanov Cross. I'm reading a lot of stuff about the Romanovs all of a sudden. You got angels, you got biblical lore, you got chases, you got bad guys, you got good versus evil. It's got all that stuff in there. To me, it's just maybe a little bit too much. I would pair this with a red blend, just because there's so much going into this book. Just with a red blend, you can have so many different wines. I had a wonderful one this weekend, Trepiche Oak Cask Red Blend. It's a Chilean wine, Syrah, Bonarda, and Malbec. Absolutely wonderful wine. You can get that for about $10 at pretty much any grocery store. So this book, not a pass for me per se. It's the second of a trilogy. I'll read the third one. Just didn't quite grab me like some of the critics, I think, really went overboard on this guy. Not too bad though. A couple books that where's my little dove thing? Swan. The Iron King, Maurice Druon. This is not a new book. This came out in 1956. This is what George R.R. Martin claims. This is the first book in the Accursed King series. This is what he says Game of Thrones is kind of based on, or inspired by, I guess. There's intrigues, there's the backstabbing, the general nastiness. This one's set in Imperial French court in the 1300s. I started reading this. I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones, and I just couldn't get into it. And as I read some reviews, it is a little bit drier. Maybe it's because it's from 1950s, a couple decades ago. But I know a lot of people are really going to like this because of Game of Thrones, and this is the newest printing. It hasn't been in print a lot, and I think some of the books aren't even in English yet. The ones at the end. So buyer beware on this guy. I think it's got some good potential. I think it's going to get some more publicity as Game of Thrones continues to get bigger. I'm not going to read this. I'm not going to finish this one. Kind of interesting, but it's out there. One should be aware of that guy. This one I am excited about. Amity and Sorrow, Peggy Riley. Peggy Riley, this is her initial book, first book she's written. One of the things that drew me right away, Michael Connelly gives a blurb. Love Michael Connelly, as any regular viewers of the show know. Except Michael Connelly, just on a side note, the blurbs. Maybe too many. You're becoming the lead child of the blurb world. It seems you're giving a blurb to every book. A little bit disturbing, but you're Michael Connelly and I'm not, so what do I know? This is, fans of Big Love and Sister Wives, those TV shows, I think you're going to like this book. The plot is a wife, one of 50 wives from a polygamist family, decides to break away. She's in an abusive relationship. So she takes her 2 daughters, and they kind of take off. And don't know if you can tell, this little white tie, it's the girls in the back seat. This is what it represents, them tied together. One girl really embraces the freedom in the new life, and the other girl kind of pines for her old life. So this is another character-driven book. I think if you liked Emily Donahue's Room, I previewed on the very first episode I did of this, I think you'd enjoy this book of how these characters kind of adjust to a new world, a new setting. So it's got some very good reviews. I'm really excited about this. I would pair this with a Chardonnay. I just think Chardonnay is kind of fresh. There's so many different styles of Chardonnay, and it can really pull you in different directions. You really like it, you can really loathe it, those types of things. It just feels like a Chardonnay book to me. Very literary, getting some great reviews about the prose she uses in her language, so I think this will be a good book. This might be my next one. Okay, a couple books that just came on our Lucky Breaks. Lisa Jackson and Lisa Scottline. Just remember, Lucky Breaks are those just pop into the library. We have all the big name authors. We're buying extra copies of them. Hopefully, if it's your lucky day, if it's your lucky break, they'll be on the shelf waiting for us. So these are just 2 of them. We got about 8 titles recently, somewhere around there. A lot of good stuff down there. Last but not least, the new book page is out. A book I'm really excited about, Joe Hill's Nosferatu. Joe Hill's the son of Stephen King. He wrote a book called Horns I really enjoyed about 2-3 years ago, which is going to be a movie. I think Daniel Radcliffe might be the main character. So, Harry Potter fans, Harry Potter alert. Is coming sometime soon. But this book is coming on the shelves pretty soon. There's a wonderful little review and interview in this magazine that I just put out today in the Medina Library. You can get it at all of our branches. So look at this guy up. That's it. I covered everything I wanted to. So thank you for joining us. Email me, get in contact with me. Let me hear you some feedback. Let me hear your feedback, and I will see you in the stacks.